Okay, and we are back rolling live for our 2 days coverage of the Envestnet conference here in Las Vegas. And we have a real special guest with us. We have Chris Todd, who is the relatively new CEO of Envestnet.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining me. And I was talking a little bit off camera with you. I saw you on the keynote. Fantastic. A lot of exciting stuff. We don't have that full time here today, so in the 10 minutes that we have, can you condense down for us, please, what you have in mind for Envestnet?
Right. So Envestnet is an extraordinary company. And for the last 25 years have been the leader in technology solutions to drive the wealth management space. And what excited me about Envestnet is the opportunity to continue to expand that platform, continue to serve broker-dealers, continue to serve RIAs, and to continue to lead in a market that is increasingly blurring between what's a broker-dealer and what's an RIA. And so as a team, we're super focused right now on doing the value creation work that we need to do in order to be crystal clear on exactly where and how we're going to execute on that.
Great, that sounds good. And something that you mentioned up on stage just a few moments ago, which I thought was an interesting way of putting it, is that you're clearly on that bullseye and that the bullseye itself is clear.
Right.
Can you expand on that a little bit, please?
Right. So the bullseye, by bullseye I meant, if who Envestnet is the leader in providing technology and technology-enabled solutions to the wealth management space, we love that market. And that market is big enough, right? Some companies and some industries look at markets and market opportunities and say, we can't achieve what we want to by doing just what we're doing here. We need to move into adjacent markets, or we need to move into new markets. As we sit here today, as we look ahead sort of 3-5 years for Envestnet, I don't think that's what we need to do. We need to continue to deliver great solutions to the organizations that we serve today. We need to continue to expand the solutions and the technology that we provide them. But if we do a great job with that, we will be able to grow along with them, and it'll be a great outcome for Envestnet while we're delivering great outcomes for the people that we serve.
That sounds good. And what would you say would be maybe the 1 or 2 top priorities in the near term?
Yeah.
And then perhaps that same question, but for the long term.
Yeah. In the near term, we need to make sure that, let me sort of rephrase that. One of the largest challenges that Envestnet has is that there are so many opportunities. And one of the areas that I've identified early on is that we'll benefit from focus. And as I say all the time internally, we have more great ideas than we can implement in a lifetime. Let's pick 5. Right. And when those 5 are done, or we feel like they're done enough, then let's go back to the list and pick another one, and pick another one, and pick another. And so it's around focus.
Yeah.
And I believe if we're focused, and we're very clear with the market, where we're going and how we're going to be focused, the market will go with us. Underneath that, though, we need to continue to move where the markets are moving. There's clearly, sort of clearly a movement toward organizations wanting to or needing to serve sort of more high net worth clients, right? Organizations are moving in that direction, and we're going to go with the market.
Makes a ton of sense. So kind of skating to where the puck is going.
Exactly, the old Wayne Gretzky quote.
Indeed.
Yeah.
So you mentioned 5. Are there 5 that you can...
It's not 5, right? That 5's just a euphemism. It
Okay.
could be 4, it could be 6.
Gotcha.
But we probably can't focus on more than 4 or 5, right? It's not 10.
Yeah, I think that makes a ton of sense. So you may or may not know, I'm not sure if you've been following goRIA.com, but this is my side hustle. I actually have an RIA. I run a firm.
Very good, yeah.
So this is just something I kind of do on the side because I love talking to SMEs, subject matter experts like yourself. But something else that you said on stage which really resonated with me, which is the idea of that shiny new toy.
Right.
I suffer from that shiny new toy syndrome badly, as I think a lot of founders do. Like, oh, that's cool, that's cool.
Right.
And as I'm looking out here, and they can't see it on the camera, of course, but you have a huge room filled with all kinds of really...
There are a lot of toys in here.
A lot of toys in here.
Right.
And I find myself running my firm, which is substantially smaller than yours, trying to stay focused on that.
Right.
What's the key to this? I know you have a background in McKinsey.
Right.
I have a lot of respect for people that come out of McKinsey because it's such a phenomenal operation.
Right.
How do you, as a CEO, maintain that focus?
Right. I think there are 2 things that we try to do. The first is to be crystal clear on what our strategy is. And if we can articulate our strategy and the subparts of that, what markets do we want to serve and how do we want to serve them, any given shiny new toy or M&A opportunity either fits in the strategy or it doesn't. Be crystal clear whether it fits into the strategy and be really harsh with that line. And if it doesn't, maybe interesting, maybe fun, maybe shiny, but say no thank you and move on. If it causes you to rethink your strategy, fine, but do that work first before you get distracted by the toy. And then the second thing that sort of I do, this is a lesson that I learned from a former CEO about 25 years ago, is look at all opportunities with the gift test. And I find that people can get wrapped around, oh, I can do this, I can afford this, here's a deal, we're going to get a deal done. I try to divorce myself from all of that to say, does it pass the gift test? If someone gave this to me for free, it just landed on my stoop or in my mailbox, do I even want it?
Interesting.
Do I know what to do it? And what I found over time is that most things flunk the gift test. And that's a really good screen. And so we're starting to implement that at Envestnet, and it's helped us already with a couple things that have come over the transom.
I love that. And the other part I want to touch on a little bit here as well. So you've been a CEO for other organizations, obviously, not necessarily all in the wealth management.
None of them in the wealth management space. Right.
And I think that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the reason why I say that is because you're coming in like a real CEO. So I'm a CEO,
right,
but I'm not really a CEO. Like I'm a founder.
You're a real CEO.
What I mean by that is because there's a big difference between a young, scrappy, entrepreneur, which I was 30 years ago, to a less young, less scrappy CEO, because all the things I used to make fun of, like KPIs and metrics and all these things, I now find myself saying, hey, we need some KPIs, we need some metrics. So I do now more appreciate a good CEO than I did even 5 years ago. Because it could be wealth management, it could be healthcare, it could be whatever, but there's certain tenets that stay the same on how you run a company. Yes?
Absolutely. Right. There are operating principles that sort of translate in any industry, right? So KPIs. A standard set of whatever the business is, a standard set of operating reviews with a consistent set of reports where everyone agrees on the source of the underlying data so that there's no debate over that, with a really sort of clear and curated set of to-dos at the end of that meeting that'll be followed up first at the next meeting. Yeah. Turns out that works everywhere.
It really does. Yeah, and I'm just starting to appreciate that. And no one made fun of MBAs more than yours truly. Years ago. When you're running like a 1 or 2 person shop, you don't need that.
Well, because you know it all in your head.
That's exactly right.
And every organization gets to the point where, I mean, as sort of a founder, you got to a point where it wasn't all in your head anymore, and you couldn't intuitively know everything in the business. Once you get to that point, you need to start to build the process.
Right.
And part of the trick for any leader is to understand that the process you need at a $10 million organization is different than 50, is different than 100, is different than $1 billion, is different than 10 billion.
Right.
And knowing where your power swing is.
Absolutely. Okay, so I know we only have you for a couple more minutes. Yeah. You're being pulled in all these directions, so I appreciate you taking some time. Last question, kind of a two-part. What would you consider to be a success under your CEO leadership a year from now, 5 years from now?
Yeah. A year from now, that question to me is simple. That both Envestnet employees and the market are clear on who Envestnet is and where we're going.
Okay.
And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are working really hard at that and looking forward to finishing that work and sort of communicating that to the marketplace.
All right. 5 years from now.
5 years from now, that however this industry adapts, and one thing that I've learned in my sort of brief 3 months here is the creativity and the ability to adapt in this space is huge, stunning, really large.
And it moves fast.
Yeah, and so that we are still the technology leader and the leader in sort of technology delivered solutions in the wealth management space. Don't know exactly what the market's going to look like. You don't either.
Yeah.
This is why it's so adaptable. But I'm excited to go on that journey.
All right, that sounds real good. What a great way to put a pin in it for now. So, Chris Todd, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy day.
Let's do this again.
Absolutely.
All right, take care.
Okay, so we will be back in about another hour or so with some more content. And again, we're here for 2 days covering live the Envestnet conference here in Las Vegas. We'll be back soon. Thanks again.
Take care.